It looks like music mogul Yo Gotti and Angela Simmons have quietly gone their separate ways. Sources close to the situation say Angela started feeling like she was investing more emotionally than she was receiving in return. While Gotti's schedule was packed with studio sessions, business meetings, and public appearances, Angela reportedly began to feel like she was slipping down his list of priorities, like her presence no longer held the same weight in his fast-paced world. When a woman starts feeling like she is no longer a priority, it is often a sign that it is time to walk away. Word is, Angela and Yo Gotti have quietly gone their own ways, but this is not the first time they have hit a rough patch. Their relationship has seen its share of ups and downs, with heated arguments followed by silent distance. You already know what it is, and welcome to Star Hush, where we pull back the curtain on the sparkle, the spotlight, and the truth behind the headlines. Yo Gotti's interest in Angela Simmons was never your typical celebrity romance. It started with a verse, not a DM. Long before they were ever seen side by side, Gotti boldly used his music as a megaphone to express his feelings. This was not some casual name drop. It was a full-on declaration, heartfelt and public, that turned heads across the industry. At the time, though, Angela was already engaged to Sutton Tennyson. Gotti had no choice but to fall back and take the loss in silence. To many, it seemed like his shot had come and gone. But time passed, circumstances changed, and suddenly that once far-fetched fantasy began edging toward reality. As sparks began flying, the internet lit up with excitement. What looked like a hip-hop fairy tale, though, quickly revealed itself to be more of a complicated ride. The chemistry was real, but the relationship had its glitches right from the start. Fans expected a power couple, but instead, they got a story that highlighted how bold, public gestures can sometimes lead to a real connection, but not always the fairy tale ending. Gotti had been dropping hints for years, lacing his verses with clues that had fans decoding every lyric. The suspense only grew until Angela finally confirmed the rumors on Instagram in 2023. After years of waiting, it seemed like Gotti's persistence paid off. His lyrical dream girl was finally his. Or so it appeared, but the honeymoon phase was short-lived. Before long, cracks began to surface and whispers turned into full-on conversations. For those new to the backstory, let's rewind to where it all sparked. Back in 2015, when Gotti shook the game with "Down in the DM." That now iconic line, "And I just followed Angela Simmons, boy I got a crush on Angela Simmons," was more than a bar. It was raw, unfiltered emotion. Gotti was unapologetically transparent, putting his heart on the line in front of the whole world. It was a moment that made people pause and say, "Yo, he's really serious." And he was. That level of honesty, that unshakable confidence, it was all real. But when Angela was asked if she would ever give Gotti a serious chance, she made her position crystal clear at the time, not then. Angela Simmons made it clear from the jump. She was not trying to build something deep unless there was a ring involved. That was her standard. And while Yo Gotti was out here pouring his heart into verses and making his feelings known to the world, Angela was moving in a completely different direction. In 2016, she stunned everyone with a surprise announcement. She was engaged to her ex, Sutton Tennyson. Not long after, they welcomed a child together. That curveball caught everyone off guard. While Gotti continued to pour out his emotions through music, she was settling into motherhood and family life with someone else. Still, Gotti did not fold. In 2017, he released "Save It For Me," another heartfelt track that left no doubt about who was on his mind. That song felt more like a personal letter than a single, filled with quiet pain, reflection, and a sense of longing as he watched Angela from afar. Then came another twist. Angela and Sutton ended their relationship in late 2017. When Angela finally opened up about the breakup, her words carried the weight of someone who had fought hard to keep things together. "I just got to a place where I felt like I wasn't happy. And I tried and I tried and I tried. I wanted it to work because the last thing I wanted was to not be with the father of my child." It was honest, raw. You could hear the heartbreak behind every word. But then, tragedy struck. In 2018, Sutton Tennyson was shot and killed outside his home. According to reports, he had been speaking with someone in his driveway when the conversation suddenly turned violent. Gunfire ended his life. The news sent shockwaves through the public. No one saw it coming, and it left Angela facing a level of grief no one should have to bear. In the months and years that followed, Angela began trying to rebuild her life. She kept things low-key, romantically, but fans never stopped wondering if Gotti was still part of the story. After everything, many believed he had manifested this connection with his persistence and patience. So when the two were finally spotted together, it felt like destiny had finally stepped in. The world watched as what once seemed impossible now looked like fate coming full circle. Even with all the glitz, glam, and headline-worthy romance, the sparkle on this hip-hop love story began to fade sooner than fans expected. Beneath the picture-perfect moments and lavish surprises, cracks were forming, and they were hard to ignore. Behind the designer lifestyle and public appearances, Angela Simmons was reportedly facing serious financial setbacks. Word on the street was that debt had been piling up due to her extravagant spending habits. Things came to a head when her landlord filed a lawsuit against her for nearly $48,000 in unpaid rent. That legal blow made headlines and quickly shifted public perception. What made it even worse was the court ruling against her, confirming that things were not as flawless as they seemed. Then there was the luxury car she famously gave to Gotti, a gesture that once symbolized love and loyalty. But behind the scenes, whispers began circulating that the vehicle was not fully paid for upfront. Instead, it was being financed in monthly installments, making the grand gift seem more like a financial burden than a flex. That revelation added a layer of tension and raised red flags about the foundation of their relationship. Sources close to Gotti claimed he started feeling uneasy. As generous as he was known to be, he reportedly had no interest in becoming someone's personal ATM. The balance in their relationship began to feel off, and that shift became visible in his behavior. Word started spreading that Gotti was reverting to his old habits, reaching out to women through direct messages, just like he did when he first expressed interest in Angela. But this time, there was more drama attached. One name, in particular, stirred the pot. Nurse, a woman with past tension with Angela. According to reports from Distractify, Gotti was seen with her in Las Vegas at the Aria Hotel, while Angela was nowhere to be found. That rumor set the internet ablaze. Speculation about infidelity flooded blogs and gossip sites, igniting debates across social media. Some fans hoped the couple would weather the storm, while others called for Angela to walk away for good and protect her peace. As if things were not heavy enough, tragedy soon followed. Gotti's older brother, Anthony Big Juk Mims, was shot and killed in a devastating incident. The heartbreaking news added even more emotional weight to an already fragile situation. In a span of months, what once looked like a fairy tale was unraveling. Fast. Big Juk was not just Yo Gotti's brother. He was a key figure at CMG, the powerhouse label behind artists like Moneybagg Yo and GloRilla. But behind the executive, moves and polished business image, Juk's name was caught up in some heavy street-level drama. Whispers began circulating that his death might not have been random. Rumors linked it to a chain of retaliation connected to long-standing beefs in the rap world. Most notably, the tragic killing of young Dolph, a rival who had very public issues with Gotti's crew. Some speculated that Juk may have played a deeper role behind the scenes. The most shocking claims suggested he had allegedly put out a bounty in connection to Dolph's death, trying to prove loyalty and secure more power within the label. Whether true or not, the rumors alone were enough to shake fans. Many turned their focus to Angela Simmons, urging her to step back before she became tangled in something darker than industry gossip. For those who remembered the devastating loss of her ex-fiancé, Sutton Tennyson, the warning signs were all too familiar. One fan did not mince words, calling out Angela for acting goofy and saying, "Your fiancé died in the streets." Unlike the slow, years-long chase Gotti had for Angela, the bond with GloRilla looked instant, organic even. No cryptic lyrics, no thirst-trap DMs, just straight-up chemistry that seemed to spark the moment she signed. Fans noticed how quickly their connection grew, and it felt like the tables had turned. This time, Gotti was not waiting around. He was already all in, But just when people thought Gotti was living his best life, successful label, new star artist, and what looked like a fresh start, things shifted again. Whispers turned into rumors. Gotti and Angela had quietly gone their separate ways. No official statements, no dramatic unfollowing. Just silence, the kind that makes people pay attention. The Instagram PDA stopped. The red carpet appearances vanished. Fans were left reading between the lines, and while this was not the first time they had hit a rough patch, sources close to the situation suggested this split felt different. Real. Permanent. People online started asking, why aren't they saying anything? Why the silence if it's over? But in celebrity culture, silence often is the announcement. No press release needed, just the absence of posts, the end of matching fits, the stillness in a feed that once screamed, "We're solid." Whatever the real story is, one thing feels clear. Angela and Gotti's chapter might finally be closing. Quietly. No more love songs. No more bold declarations. Just the quiet aftermath of a relationship that once had the whole internet rooting for a fairy tale, only to end with a whisper instead of a bang. They do not hesitate to announce everything else. Every bag, every vacation, every red carpet look. So when the silence hit, it spoke volumes. And just like that, the saga of Angela Simmons and Yo Gotti wrapped up in the most unexpected way. What began with bars and bold moves, Gotti confessing his crush in a song, morphed into a real-life romance that had fans locked in from the jump. Their journey played out like a hip-hop love story, complete with matching fits, viral moments, and red carpet hand-holding. But once the filters came off, the reality behind the curated posts painted a much different picture. The connection that looked so dreamy in public might have been more style than substance. The romance that fans once rooted for ended not with fireworks, but with silence, a slow fade. And now, what was once a trending topic feels like a cautionary tale. Because no matter how loud the love looks online, it means nothing if the foundation is weak behind the scenes. For all its highs, this ride came with plenty of lows, financial rumors, loyalty questions, public scrutiny, and quiet separations. In the end, the shine dimmed, the fantasy unraveled, and love gave way to lessons. Real talk. This whole chapter serves as a reminder. Not every fairy tale survives the spotlight. Some stories are meant to trend, not to last. One thing is crystal clear. Whatever story Yo Gotti and Angela Simmons shared, it had the whole world hooked. Their saga played out like a real-life drama, full of flashes of romance, headlines, and moments that made people stop and pay attention. But beneath all the glam and glitz, it seemed like something more complicated was happening. Something not quite as perfect as the pictures on Instagram or the smiles on the red carpet. Sometimes, what looks like love isn't really love at all. Sometimes, it's just someone holding onto a fantasy, a dream they refuse to let go of. Maybe Gotti wasn't truly in love with the Angela Simmons who exists in everyday life, but with the idea of her, the version built from TV appearances, glossy magazine covers, and public moments that seem larger than life. It was the Angela everyone saw and admired from afar, the woman who seemed untouchable and glamorous. But the reality behind the scenes, the challenges and the struggles that come with real life, might have been a different story altogether. Angela, on the other hand, might have wanted love, but not the kind that's stuck in the past or fueled by nostalgia. She may have wanted to be loved for who she truly was, not for the idealized version someone else created in their mind. There's a huge difference between loving a person and loving the story you tell yourself about them. That difference can make or break a relationship, especially when both people are dealing with their own realities and expectations. Was their relationship genuine? Was it simply bad timing? Or was it two people trying to force a headline-making romance into real life, hoping the hype would hold it together? These are questions many fans and observers are still asking. The truth is, we may never get the full picture because not all love stories come with neat endings or clear closure. Sometimes people choose silence over explanations, and that leaves room for speculation, for wondering what could have been. What their story really reminds us is how blurry the line between love and illusion can get when the spotlight is too bright. When your relationship unfolds in front of millions of eyes, it's easy for fantasy and reality to mix in ways that confuse even the people living it. The pressure to keep up appearances, to meet expectations, and to maintain an image can weigh heavily on any couple. And when love is caught in that glare, it doesn't always survive the heat. Maybe for Yo Gotti and Angela, it was never about finding a happily ever after like the fairy tales. Maybe it was about living in a moment that felt real enough to believe in, even if it was temporary. Sometimes that's all a relationship needs to be. A beautiful, intense, but fleeting chapter in the story of two people's lives. Their journey shows us that love isn't always straightforward. It's messy, complicated, and sometimes painful. It can be filled with hope, heartbreak, excitement, and disappointment, all wrapped up in one. And when you add fame, public scrutiny, and high expectations, those emotions become even more magnified. In the end, what we saw between Gotti and Angela may have been a mix of genuine feelings and dreams chasing each other through time. A dance between what was real and what was wished for. Whether it was a love that could have lasted or just a beautiful illusion, it certainly kept the world watching. And maybe that's the lesson here. Not every love story is meant to last forever, but every story has something to teach us about ourselves, about hope, and about what it means to connect with another human being, even if only for a moment. So as their chapter closes, fans are left with memories, questions, and the reminder that sometimes love is less about the ending and more about the experience. The spotlight moves on, but the echoes of their story linger, telling us that in the game of love and fame, not all dreams come true, but the chase itself is unforgettable. The streets are always watching, and the truth always finds its way out. We want to hear what you think.